Alcatraz. The very name conjures images of isolation, fear, and the ultimate test of human endurance. The name itself sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened criminals. It was a place where the worst of the worst were sent, a place where hope seemed to vanish. Located on a desolate island in the heart of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was more than just a prison. It was a fortress, a symbol of the American justice system's unyielding resolve. It was a symbol of America's unyielding justice system, a place where the law reigned supreme and mercy was a distant memory. Surrounded by treacherous currents and frigid waters, Alcatraz boasted an air of impenetrability. Its reputation, escape-proof. The waters themselves were a natural barrier, cold and unforgiving. From 1934 to 1963, Alcatraz housed some of the nation's most notorious criminals. Al Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly. These names were synonymous with crime and infamy. These men, infamous for their ruthlessness and cunning, found themselves confined within the island's walls. Their freedom stripped away, they faced the harsh reality of life on Alcatraz. Alcatraz was designed to break the most resilient spirits. The cells were small, the conditions harsh, and the isolation profound. It sought to isolate, punish, and deter. The prison yard, though open to the sky, was a place of constant surveillance and control. No one had ever successfully escaped its clutches, or so everyone thought. The stories of attempted escapes were legendary, but the success rate was zero. The prison itself was a forbidding sight. Its walls, thick and unyielding, seemed to echo the despair of those within. Stark concrete buildings rose from the rocky terrain. The architecture was utilitarian, designed for function over form. Guard towers loomed ominously, manned by watchful eyes. The guards were ever vigilant, their presence a constant reminder of the prison's authority. The isolation of Alcatraz was palpable, a constant reminder of the inmates' separation from the outside world. The view of the distant city was a cruel reminder of what they had lost. It was a place of confinement, both physical and psychological. The walls closed in, and the mind struggled to find solace. Alcatraz was the ultimate test of human resilience. The daily grind, the monotony, the constant surveillance, it all took its toll. It was a place where hope went to die. The bleak environment, the relentless routine, the absence of freedom, it all conspired to crush the human spirit. Yet even within these walls of despair, the human spirit, in its unyielding quest for freedom, would find a way to challenge the impossible. The stories of attempted escapes, though often ending in failure, were a testament to the enduring hope and resilience of the human soul. The story of the great Alcatraz escape centers around three men, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin.
I had a history of escaping from other institutions, which made me a particularly high-risk inmate. My audacity and intellect made me the natural leader of the escape plot.
John Anglin, the elder of the two brothers, was known for his mechanical skills and physical strength. He had a quiet determination, a stark contrast to his younger brother's more impulsive nature.
My brother Clarence and we were a team. Our crimes, though non-violent, landed us in a string of state penitentiaries.
Clarence, on the other hand, was known for his daring and impulsiveness. He was fiercely loyal to his brother John, and together they formed a formidable duo.
It was during our time in Leavenworth Penitentiary that we first crossed paths with Frank Morris. Bound by a shared longing for freedom, we began to hatch our audacious plan.
Their shared history of confinement and their complementary skills made them a formidable team. They were driven by a desperate desire for freedom, a longing that fueled their meticulous planning and daring execution of the most audacious escape in American prison history. The escape plan was a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. It required meticulous planning, unwavering patience, and a healthy dose of luck. The trio of inmates, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, began by studying the prison's blueprints in great detail. They needed to understand every inch of the facility to find a way out. Their plan was not just about brute force, but about outsmarting the system. They spent countless hours discussing and refining their strategy in the dim light of their cells. The trio began by exploiting a design flaw in the prison's ventilation system. Behind their cells lay a network of unguarded utility corridors, which they realized could be their pathway to freedom. These corridors were narrow and dark, but they provided a hidden route that the guards rarely checked. It was a risky gamble, but it was their best shot. They noticed that the concrete around their cell's ventilation grates was crumbling. This weakness in the structure was their opportunity. Using makeshift tools, they began widening these existing holes. They scavenged spoons, forks, and even a vacuum cleaner motor to chip away at the concrete. The ingenuity of their tools was remarkable. They turned everyday items into instruments of escape, showing their resourcefulness and determination. The noise of their clandestine activity was masked by the nightly music hour, during which the prisoners were allowed to play instruments. This provided the perfect cover for their work. For months, they toiled away, their progress slow but steady. Each night, they chipped away a little more, inching closer to their goal. To conceal their work, they fashioned dummy vents out of cardboard and paint. These were placed over their growing holes, creating the illusion of an undisturbed cell wall. The dummy vents were so convincing that even the guards didn't suspect a thing. This deception was crucial to their plan's success. To dispose of the accumulating concrete dust, they created makeshift bags from their clothing. These bags allowed them to transport the dust without arousing suspicion. Every night, they'd sprinkle the dust discreetly into the prison yard during their exercise hour. This method ensured that the evidence of their work was gradually and inconspicuously removed. The escape plan relied on careful coordination and meticulous attention to detail. Every aspect, from the tools they used to the disposal of evidence, was carefully considered and executed. Their commitment to the plan was absolute. They knew that one mistake could mean the end of their dream of freedom, so they left nothing to chance. Their hope of freedom fueled by each successful day of undetected work. The dream of escaping Alcatraz kept them going night after night as they inched closer to their daring escape. Section 4. Escape into the Night, a daring flight to freedom. On the night of June 11, 1962, the meticulous plan was put into action. Months of preparation, careful planning, and sheer determination had led to this moment. The escapees had spent countless hours studying the prison's layout, gathering materials and crafting their tools.
After slipping through the holes behind our cells, we navigated the labyrinthine network of utility corridors. These dark, narrow passageways were our only route to freedom, and we moved with a mix of caution and urgency, knowing that any misstep could mean the end of our escape.
We reached the roof, our hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The vast expanse of the night sky above us was both liberating and terrifying. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow a potential threat. We knew we were on borrowed time.
The chilling wind whipped at our faces as we made our way to the edge of the roof. The cold air was a stark reminder of the dangers that lay ahead, but it also invigorated us, pushing us forward. We could see the distant lights of San Francisco, a beacon of hope in the darkness.
Our escape route involved a daring descent from the roof. We had to be silent and swift, each movement calculated to avoid detection. The descent was treacherous, but we had no choice. Our freedom depended on it.
We had fashioned a makeshift raft from over 50 raincoats, painstakingly stitched and glued together. This raft was our lifeline, a fragile vessel that we hoped would carry us to safety. The process of creating it had been arduous, but it was our only hope.
We inflated the raft using a concertina, one of the musical instruments we had access to. The sound of the concertina, usually associated with music and joy, now took on a new meaning. It was the sound of our impending freedom, a rhythm that matched the beating of our hearts.
With our makeshift raft bobbing precariously in the water below, we prepared for the final, treacherous leg of our escape. The waters of San Francisco Bay were cold and unforgiving, but we were determined. We had come too far to turn back now.
Under the cover of darkness, they carefully lowered their raft and their makeshift life preservers into the water. Every movement was deliberate, every sound muffled by the night. They knew that the slightest noise could alert the guards and spell disaster. The icy currents of San Francisco Bay awaited them, a formidable obstacle in their desperate bid for freedom. The water was frigid, and the currents were strong, but their resolve was stronger. They had prepared for this moment, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.
One by one, we slipped into the water and clambered onto the raft, our silhouettes swallowed by the darkness. The raft felt unstable beneath us, but we held on, driven by the hope of freedom. The night was our ally, concealing us from prying eyes.
We paddled away from the island, our eyes fixed on the distant lights of San Francisco. Each stroke of the paddle brought us closer to our goal, but also deeper into the unknown. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but we were undeterred.
Behind them, the imposing silhouette of Alcatraz faded into the night, a symbol of the life they were leaving behind. The prison, once a place of confinement and despair, was now a distant memory. They were moving towards a new beginning, uncertain but hopeful. They were free, at least for now. The calm waters of the bay seemed to welcome them, offering a brief respite from their ordeal. But they knew that their journey was far from over. The night was still young, and many challenges lay ahead. But their escape was far from over. The foggy waters of San Francisco Bay held many secrets, and the distant lights of the city were both a promise and a threat. They had escaped Alcatraz, but their true test of survival was just beginning. Section 5. The chase begins, unraveling the mystery. The next morning, the guards were met with an unsettling sight: 3 dummy heads resting on pillows in the beds of the escapees' cells. Panic ensued.
The guards raised the alarm, their shouts echoing through the normally silent cell blocks. The escape had been discovered.
A massive manhunt was launched. Coast Guard cutters patrolled the bay, their searchlights cutting through the fog. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their powerful beams scanning the choppy waters. Police scoured the shoreline, hoping for any sign of the escapees. The escape had become front-page news, captivating the nation and turning the escapees into unlikely folk heroes.
Despite the extensive search efforts, the trail ran cold. The FBI took over the investigation, determined to unravel the mystery of the escape and bring the fugitives to justice.
The investigation unearthed the prisoners' ingenious use of makeshift tools and meticulous planning, which only deepened the mystery. The authorities were baffled. How could 3 hardened criminals vanish without a trace?
The evidence pointed to a successful escape, but with no bodies recovered, the possibility remained that the men had perished in the attempt.
The case, though cold, refused to be closed. The legend of the great Alcatraz escape had begun.